letter from the state. I have a copy of it on my computer. And basically the letter was addressed to the mayor and it was addressed to the council members. And it said that we were over 2 months late in submitting our budget to the state. They hadn't heard from us, and by a certain date, they were going to start fining council persons personally $5 a day until the budget was introduced. Okay, I got the letter directly from the state, and I was told from the state that it was sent out to the municipality. Now, if the first line of defense or the first receipt of any correspondence to that nature goes to the borough clerk, I just need to know how you handle it, because it's rather odd that it was addressed to mayor and council, but the mayor isn't getting fined. The council persons, if the state so chose to go through with it, would have been fined, and nobody received a copy of the letter. However, for the past 2 years, when we have been late with our budget for the past 2 years, that same letter had come from the state. Rona, our borough clerk, stamped it in, and she made sure not only the mayor but each council member had gotten a copy of it, since it is a personal liability to the council. Now, all of a sudden, the 3rd year our budget is late, the state sends out a letter, and nobody's seen it, nobody's had a copy of it, nobody knows where it is, and it was confirmed from the state that it was sent to this municipality, and it's addressed to Mayor Holly and the council person. So this is why, and this is what I asked you to follow up on, but now everybody's like, I don't know.
Let me just be clear. If you did receive a letter from the state through email, it would have been nice for you to share that with us as well.
Oh, I thought you might have had it on your desk.
Any letters that I receive that are addressed to mayor and council, I immediately open them up and give them to the clerk's office and to have them make copies. In fact, we've done one this week, I believe, that was addressed to mayor and council.
Well,
There's no advantage of me hiding some type of letter, or the clerk's office hiding some type of letter.
I never said anyone hid anything.
Well,
what I'm saying is
you're
that
hinting at it.
I'm not hinting at
let me
anything.
finish.
I'm
You made your
directly
statement.
speaking.
You made your statement. What I'm saying to you is the process that since I've been here is that any letters that are addressed to mayor and or council with my name on it, I give it to the clerk's office, and she makes copies, and we put them in your mailbox, just like we did last week, this week. So, you know, if you received a letter from the state that's emailed to you, I'd be happy to, I would hope that you would share that with us as well.
No, I addressed that with the business administrator, and I find it strange if it was addressed to mayor and council, he never brought it to your attention.
I would like
you
to
say you never knew about it?
I've not received the letter.
Dave, how did you follow up with it?
I have a theory that has to be discussed in executive session.
You have a theory, but did you ever directly ask the mayor if he received a letter from the state?
I asked the mayor, I asked the clerk's office, no one has that.
Because everyone is acting as if it's
Well, I would like a
surprise.
copy of the letter if you got an email to you.
The only thing I can say, I got a call by the auditors that told me the state called them because the councilwoman called the state on us.
Oh, I know. I didn't call the state on you.
That's what I
I
got.
called
They
the
called it-
state.
The state called the auditors and told them, the councilwoman called regarding the budget, what's going on?
Let me just be
And then
clear.
and explain what the process is.
Let me
And
just
they
be
said, go
clear.
ahead and do your process.
I mean, share
Let
the
me
letter
just
with
be
us. I would love
clear.
to see the
Out
letter.
of 566 municipalities, it was 33 municipalities that did not submit their budget on time, Roselle being one of those municipalities. And it was stated that the municipalities would be fined, the personal council people, $5 per day until the budget is introduced. I called the state, okay, to find out, okay, exactly what the deadline is that the budget needed to be submitted before we are fined. And the state so graciously faxed me a copy of the letter that was sent to mayor and council almost 2 weeks prior to me calling, and no one has received a copy of it.
I haven't received it, like I said, I got a phone call from the auditors.
President, may I speak a second?
Sure.
First of all, I never received any such thing, but, you know, I think the irony of this discussion, and since this is a workshop, please let me finish my statement. from 207, because I have all the records, including bill list, because I'm a pack rat, 207, 208, our budgets were turned in late. And if you remember, I was harassed and abused because I pointed out to DCA that there was essentially a hole in our budget because over $500,000 was placed in that by Mr. Mapp and the Finance Committee that didn't exist for properties that were never sold. And the DCA had everybody come down, including the former Ms. Fuller VA, and they were cited about doing that sort of thing. But unfortunately, the discussion was, in order not to abuse the public any further and having to increase the taxes beyond the 9% that was increased at that time under your, financial
You were on council
observation.
as well.
So was I, yes, I was, and if I might add, I was the only one calling the state about it, okay, because we had a real issue that rolled over for the next 3 years into the budgets that were still existing. That is documented proof, okay? So please, Councilwoman Turnage, when you do these things, I have to ask myself, where were you calling the state when there was $500,000 that was put into a budget that didn't exist, that would have brought us up to a 21% increase in the taxes? So they shoveled it in there like it existed. And I said to the DCA, you know what's going to happen? They forced them to get the contracts. Remember that? The unsigned contracts for property that was never sold? And they finally got them to get the contracts. And guess what happened? Along with the zoning officer and former administration and Mr. Mapp. And guess what happened? Exactly what I said would happen. 30 days later, one of those contracts were canceled. We did end up with $250,000. The other $250,000 sunk under the water, never to exist again except to be rolled over in 2009. When we had no state aid into a budget. Let's also talk about the fact that we passed an ordinance to go out and pay $1.5 million in tax appeals that the former financial CFO took out of our general fund instead of going out and selling the bonds, and put this town in a devastating situation that we are now recuperating and recovering from. Thank God for the CFO and the people that exist here today.
Well, you have to
Councilwoman, you made your point.
You can spin it any way you want for that TV, okay? But I know the truth. And another thing, when you sit there and you talk about the bill list in one breath, 1 month, you talk about $4 million, it's a runaway system. Guess what I say? 207 and 208. And guess what the average monthly expenditures were then, when we had a 9% tax increase? Between $6 and $7 million. And I would be happy to put it on the back there. For people to say, I'm dreaming, but I'm bringing it here next week. I am bringing it here next week.
Ms.
When are you
Turnage,
When are you going to stop?
You cannot
Ms.
write your
Turnage.
own history.
Ms. Turnage.
My own history?
All
Let
right.
me tell you something. You
Yes,
are
sir.
Councilwoman Turnage. Let me just finish,
Sure.
man.
You're dreaming.
No, you know what? You had an hour before. I'm taking this time.
Will you take your time?
I'm taking my
You
time.
take your
I am
Ms. Turnage.
taking this time.
She has that right.
I am taking this time.
You take your
Because
time.
I sit here month after month and listen to you spinning for the cameras. And what you don't do is you don't produce any documents. And what you don't do is you don't talk anything about the history that existed before. Well, let me tell you something right now. I got it right in documentation. So you can spin all you want, and every time you go on that camera and spin a lie, I'm going to uncover that lie with the documents.
Thank you. Bria, on your report.
You
got a
should be
report?
uncovering what's
You got it?
been going on the past
All right.
3 years. You're talking about spinning,
Okay.
please.
I'd like to close this portion of the meeting.
Please.